just talking with him a little bit about what are some of the new and exciting things that are happening still in a time where it feels like everything's kind of on pause. Behind the scenes, it's really not. There's a lot still going on, a lot still happening, um, and people who are looking for ways to create new ministries. So that'll be
Yep.
exciting to talk to him. But let's start with how you doing, man?
I've been a little under the weather.
Yeah,
Man,
not the Rona.
no, not the Rona. Usually around April, sometimes into May, I get asthma.
Yeah.
But this year's been particularly bad.
Mm.
I mean, usually it doesn't keep me down or anything. Man, yesterday I was bedridden, so
Mm.
I got it under control
Okay.
today. A lot of roids, so if you see me
Yeah.
bulging out, it's probably the
Your
steroids.
baseball career is shot.
Yes. Well, I don't know if I can pass the test. You know what I
You
mean?
just have to pass the test.
Yes,
All right.
but first I have to start hitting home runs.
Also, that you have to get good at baseball.
Yes.
I did see that there's apparently you don't care about baseball hardly at all.
And I'm a Cleveland sports guy.
Okay.
Period.
I saw that there's going to be this. I don't know if it's a documentary or something coming out soon. That's on the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa year where they were just hitting more home runs than anybody had ever hit in a season, and they had this. It was one of the most exciting years for baseball, just in general. Totally fueled by steroids, I'm sure, but if that's what it takes, I mean, I'm in.
It's funny because my wife and I just had this conversation about Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what? Rocket fuel, baby.
I mean, yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I don't know how ethical or moral any of
No,
it
it's
is,
probably not.
but it's fun to watch.
It is. It is.
It's terrible, but no, I'm with you. I love it. Chicks dig the long ball.
Have you? Speaking of baseball documentaries, have you seen the one on? It was on Netflix for a while, and it had Kurt Russell's dad owned a semi-pro baseball team that tried to make it to the big leagues out in. Oh, it was pretty cool.
Oh.
It's I'll think of it later. Just look up Kurt Russell baseball.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he might have even played on the team.
Okay.
For a little bit.
I'll have
but
to check that out because
Yeah.
I do love me some baseball.
Yeah, it was
I've
really
actually
cool.
been on a little kick the last couple of days. It was the 40th. When was it? On Monday was 40 years since the eruption of Mount St. Helens, and so I've been on a volcano documentary kick, watching all those
I
things.
remember being in grade school.
Yeah, I wasn't alive yet.
Oh, I also remember being in my senior year of high school, being in government class, and we were watching the Challenger take off, and we saw that live
Yeah.
too. And of course, after class, I was such a little jerk in high school and always messing around. Some of my friends were like, well, "How was the Challenger?" Like, it blew up, and everybody thought I was kidding, but
You weren't.
No, no.
That's why you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
you cry wolf too much. Right?
Yes.
So, so one of the things that's been on my mind, and kind of going along with what we're going to be talking about today, and I try to stay pretty optimistic. I'm an optimistic kind of
You
guy.
are.
I'm
You
way
are, for real.
way too cheerful sometimes. Like every now and then, Holly has to be like, "Can you just let me be sad? I'm allowed to be sad about things." Like, fine, but today is a little bit of a down day for me because we have sponsor kids all over the world through World Vision, and one of the places that Holly got to visit was Bangladesh, and we have a little sponsor girl there named Champa, and just this super cute girl. I think I've got some pictures of that's Holly and Champa, if you can see that. Super super sweet, and we get to write letters back and forth and stuff like that. Well, right now in Bangladesh, there's the biggest cyclone in 20 years is over top of them as we speak, and it's a pretty devastating. It'll be really devastating the area. I think there's another picture, yeah, that shows how they live. A lot of their homes are like these shacks that are built on just planks of wood over the water. And, Holly was talking about kids are literally falling through the cracks there. Like, there are
Wow.
kids that drown all the time. They don't have a lot of adult supervision and that kind of thing. And the water's not necessarily clean anyway. And so now the
Mm.
cyclone is hitting this area. They've also been under a stay-at-home order because of COVID-19,
Wow.
and so and to make matters even worse, just outside of Dhaka, there's and it's a long story, but there's a refugee camp for the Rohingya people who had come there to take refuge. There was a genocide where they were, and so they're living in a refugee camp in these conditions, nowhere to go to evacuate. And so I'm just it. So it the toll it's going to take on humanity in general is really just really weighing heavy on
Mm.
me today. And just think about them, and it's night there right now, so this is they're going through this in the dark and all of this, and um, yeah. So I don't know. It's just something that really is on my heart today, thinking about Champa and her family and all of the people of Bangladesh, which is a very densely, heavily populated country. So, and I understand that. I guess as I was thinking about this on my walk over here, I did walk over here today. It's because my car's broken, but as I was thinking about this, we all have issues that we go through, and it's really hard for us. I think, especially in a time like this, when we have our own stuff, we have our own, struggles, economic struggles, and concerns about getting sick and all of these other things. What shut down? What isn't shut down? And it seems to consume so much of our thought and I wonder if it doesn't hinder our ability to be compassionate
Mm.
to people that we can't see right now, because I'm just so focused on this stuff, and so it kind of takes our eyes off of what other people in other places might be going through. Um, and so yeah, that's just a little bit of what's been on my mind today. So I just ask anybody out there, just at some point today, say a prayer for the people of Bangladesh, for Champa, and for all those who are suffering really hard things. The last time a cyclone this size hit Bangladesh, 10,000 people lost their lives,
Mm.
and so it is a real concern. It's a really heavy thing. So so yeah, just been thinking about that and about how it is that even in times like this, and this will be kind of our theme that we're talking about today, even in times like this where we have a lot of our own stuff, I think it's important for us as followers of Christ to follow. Is Brad calling in? We getting Brad?
I think so.
All right.
Excellent.
To really look outside of ourselves and to be able to reach out to others, and that's a big part of what Brad Aycock is helping to happen in the West Ohio Conference. So, Brad, can you hear us?
I'm with you.
All
All
right.
right.
All right, good to see you, brother. How have you been?
Hey, pretty good. Considering, family, kids working from home, family, wife, me working from home. Um, Everybody's adapted well, and we're thankful that school is out and summer break is here for the kids, probably just like yourself, right?
Yep, yep, exactly. So you are the director of New Church Development. Is that the proper title for you?
That's correct.
All right.
I'm the,
Um,
the director of New Church Development for West.
for the West Ohio Conference. So, just share a little bit about what that means and what some of the things are that you've been doing.
Sure, and you know firsthand, Dan, because you were part of one of our leadership development programs here.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do in this department, and it really began about 5 years ago. West Ohio really felt like it was time to put an emphasis on church planting. And let me just back up and say, it's not about church planting, it's about evangelism. Church planting is a way to pursue evangelism, as we know. But we have put some emphasis on revitalization and supporting our 1,020 established churches over the years. But we haven't really put a lot of emphasis on starting new faith communities. It's a both and so while at the same time we needed to continue to focus on supporting our established churches through revitalization, and knowing that revitalization takes time in the church, right? It could take 5 to 7 years for a church to turn around. Yeah. We needed to also start planting new churches, and so we developed a program called the Greenhouse, and we typically will comb the West Ohio Conference looking for like the innovative entrepreneurial types of leaders who have a dream and a vision to start something new. And that could be something new on their own, or it could be in conjunction with an established parent church, which is really probably the most efficient and effective way. Mm-hmm. And so we bring those leaders through this 6-month program called the Greenhouse. And so we discuss a lot of leadership characteristics in the Greenhouse, primarily things that we don't oftentimes learn in seminary. We talk about networking, we talk about connecting, we talk about fundraising and stewardship, but the ultimate goal is to just develop as much as possible, a clear plan for this new faith community, so that we can see it put into action.
Right. And
so that's where we're at. And
yeah. So, and I think when people think of new faith communities or new church starts or whatever that might be, that a lot of times what they think of is, okay, so you're going to build yet another church. Like, we're going to have yet another church building, in our town. Do we really need more churches? But I think my experience, and just talk to us a little bit, is number one, we haven't reached everybody yet, so we can always use some more churches. But number two, it doesn't always look like a church. The way that we might know church or understand church. So what have been some of the ways that you've seen people building something that's just totally brand new, a totally different way of doing church or just having an evangelistic outreach of some sort?
All right, I was pulling you guys up here on my laptop while I'm on here, so I can see you now. That's a great point, because we do have so many really strong and faithful churches around the West Ohio Conference, and I'm assuming many of the people tuning in today are probably directly affiliated with St. Mark's Findlay, which is an amazing church who has great influence in the Findlay community, and so I'm grateful for them. So we don't really need to plant more churches like the ones that we have. We're really needing to look at areas and demographics, groups of people that we're not reaching effectively. The reality of it is many of our established churches have been around a long time. Over 90% of our churches in our conference here are between 100 and 200 years old. And so that is an asset. That is a strength, no doubt. But it also means that it's sometimes hard to implement change, to introduce new ideas. And so that's where I say that it takes time.
Yeah.
And so some of the faith communities that we've seen begin over the last about 2.5 years now, since we launched the Greenhouse Initiative, they're very creative. They're in breweries. They're in urban areas. They're in rural areas. They are in some of the most unusual places that you could imagine, and they're very unique contexts. We've got churches meeting in barns. We've got churches meeting in schools. We've got churches meeting in movie theaters, and so it's not what it really has probably ever looked like, because, like you said, Dan, on the average, about 70% of our communities do not go to a local local church. Um, so they may believe in God and Jesus, but they're just not interested in the local church. And so we're trying to, just find new and creative ways to reach new faces. And so far, like I said, we've launched 10 new faith communities, and we've got a really good start. Those 10 new faith communities are reaching a total of about, I'm talking pre-COVID-19, of course. You can double it now because of that, right? Online
Sure.
worship. Um, but prior to COVID-19, they were reaching about 2,400 people around West Ohio. And to put that into perspective, um, West Ohio has, like I said, 1,020 churches. And for the past 30 years, we've been declining in worship attendance by about 1,300. Some years up, some years down, but on the average over the last 30 years, we've been declining. So as you can see, our new churches are reaching about 1,000 more ahead of the decline. And so, and our goal isn't to save the United Methodist Church by any means, but we still think the United Methodist Church is a tremendous vehicle because of the theology to reach our community. And so far the fruit of these new churches is showing. And let me just say, it's not about the numbers, it's about the influence in our communities of these disciples, of these business leaders. We've had over 250 baptisms in these new faith communities thus far. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Excellent.
And this is obviously something that I'm passionate about. I went through the greenhouse, and we've been praying at St. Mark's for a while about what's a ministry look like in the Bluffton area, community university area, and still praying towards that, and think we'll have some exciting things to announce in the near future. But it's vital to be able to reach some people that are not currently being reached in the established ways. We can't just tweak our worship or come out with a cooler logo or better website and expect, oh, now everybody's going to flock in. Sometimes you have to do things in new ways. So I guess one of my questions would be, just could you share a story of just one of the unique ways that you've seen somebody in West Ohio reaching people in a brand new way, and just a story about how that's had a big impact?
I've got a few stories that I
I'm
could
sure you
share, but
do.
let me just say, on that note about Bluffton, of course, we've worked closely on that possibility. And I think, we oftentimes pray to God, break our heart for what breaks yours, God. And I know that you and I are both, including Dave, we're all three passionate about that particular age group, that it would be leaving the home and going to college. And that's such a pivotal and crucial age for people of faith to either continue to build on that foundation or maybe veer away from it. And so David Kinnaman's most recent research does share that we are facing one of the loneliest generations ever. And I know that we think the church has a place to speak into that. And so I'm very, very excited about that possibility, and I'm grateful for St. Mark's Findlay and you guys being willing to pray through what that could look like, because that could change not just Bluffton, it could change you all, the church, and the community. So I appreciate that. Many stories, but I'll share one or two if we have time. But one down in Cincinnati, where Anderson Hills United Methodist Church, which I believe you're familiar with, right? They have started a network of churches. Fresh Expressions is what we call them. It's just like micro churches. They've started a network of those communities in breweries around Cincinnati. Breweries are popping up in many of our cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo. I don't know about Findlay.
We have one.
If they're not there yet, they will be. Why are breweries popping up in these communities? Well, breweries provide a space for community to happen. And so the owners of these breweries, I'm not saying that that's why they're doing it necessarily, but they do see that there's a need in some of these communities, and they think their environment that they're creating would facilitate that, and it's happened, right? And so we thought, how can we engage culture with the gospel? So we've started. Jonathan Coleman down in Cincinnati has started at least 9 fresh expressions across Cincinnati, and so uh, these are full-fledged church uh, services, experiences happening. And since he started these about a year and a half ago, he's reaching around 800 new people, and he's had several baptisms throughout that period. And so he and his wife bought a house with a swimming pool because the breweries don't have a place to baptize people typically. And so they bought a house with a swimming pool where they're now baptizing people. And so it's not just about the numbers. Every number has a name, every name has a story. It's really about life transformation through that relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's what we're seeing, and that's really what is impacting homes, communities, and beyond.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know Anderson Hills well. I was there for 3 years in the residency program, and yeah, I mean, just what an awesome way to reach out in these areas where community's kind of already there, but creating a community within the community and doing some beautiful ministry there.
Brad, is there one out there that maybe you thought there's no way this would work, and it just surprised you?
Not yet, because it's still, I mean, I don't want to sound confident because with our process that we have in place now, Dave, with the greenhouse, it really is an incubator. It's a time for us to spend together collaborating on this vision. And so, as Dan mentioned, he was part of it. We probably had 12 other people go through that particular cohort that he was a part of, and we have 14 this year. And so we really invest in one another, and we push and we pull and we critique. And so our goal is to create these new places for new faces and manage risk. Church planting is very, very risky to begin with. So our greenhouse is really in place to help all of us, including our conference investors, to have a place to manage risk. Because, you know, when you all do Bluffton, it's going to be risky, right? And so we want to make sure we ease everyone's minds as much as possible, but also knowing that it could fail. And so to answer your question, we haven't arrived yet, Dave. For some of them, I'd say most of them, I'd be surprised if they didn't fail at this point because of the leader and the vision.
Yeah.
Honestly. So.
Brad, if people want to find out more about the greenhouse and new church development in West Ohio, where can they find that out?
Email me at brad.aycock at wocumc.org. That's BRADAYCOCK at wocumc.org. Cell phone 573-421-1824, or they can visit the website plantwestohio.org.
plantwestohio.org. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
I would just say, just continue to encourage the people there at St. Mark's to continue to be open and pray about it. You know, as disciples of Christ, it's easy for us to turn inward and think about what we like best or our preferences or that type of thing. Church planting is a way for us to kind of take that focus away from ourselves and focus it on something else, on the mission. The Great Commission, I believe, was a call to plant churches. Is to go and make disciples of Jesus Christ. And so that's all. Just want to encourage you all to continue to be in prayer, and I'm excited about the possibilities of what could happen. with the Bluffton Beaver community.
All right. We appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for coming on, and have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy, and tell the family hi.
Thank you so much. I thought we were going to talk about professional wrestling a
We
little bit.
can. I mean, who's your favorite professional wrestler?
That's a loaded question. I mean, there's so many,
There are
right?
so many.
Hogan,
You're back in the
Macho
day.
Man
All right.
Randy Savage is from Columbus, Ohio, so we like him.
Good point. Good point.
Undertaker, Rey Mysterio.
All right, maybe another. We can talk about that
Next time. All right. All right. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Love the show. Thanks a lot.
See you, Brad.
All right. Brad's a cool guy. I've loved getting to know him over the years, and he has such a passion for seeing new faith communities happen, and it's a way we have this idea that we've got to just revitalize our churches, and that's great. We want to do that. We want to grow our
Right.
churches, but man, one of the best ways to reach new people for Jesus is doing something new,
Right.
because what the flavor we already have isn't a flavor that their taste buds like, and so
Right.
you create a new flavor.
Well, you kept inadvertently stepping on my questions, but then one of the things that I was going to bring up, and it was a meat point by then, was Brad has bona fides. I mean, he's been a part of some really big stuff, and so that I think somebody just tuning in might
Yeah.
be, okay, who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy?
But he really has had success in really big ways at what he does. But speaking of reimagining, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier, seeing beyond ourselves. I was reading in Isaiah lately, and here you have these people who are captured by the Babylonians, and they're pleading out to God, "Hey, set us free. We need you." And they're all waiting for God to do a Dead Sea moment.
Red Sea.
Right. Every time
I was waiting for it.
a Red Sea moment, right? And they're waiting and they're waiting. And Isaiah says, "Hey, man, forget about old history."
Right.
These were people who went around, and every time something would happen, if you recall in the Old Testament, they would build a rock altar to things. And what he's not saying is like your history's lame, but he's like, all you have are these like rock altars everywhere, and nobody knows what they mean anymore. He said God's about to do something new, and if you are not perceptive, you're going to miss it. In other words, like God's done the Red Sea how many times?
One.
Right, one. God is a God of newness and
Yeah.
and invention, and I think sometimes as a church we get stuck, especially when we do things that make us feel good. Like we have an event that maybe pulled in a lot of people from the community, and that sort. Where do we go from there? We go to, okay, how are we going to do this next year?
Yeah.
And that eventually becomes one of our golden calves, because we don't have the courage and the strength to say, okay, that was awesome, but let's never do it again, because God is a God of newness and
Right.
idea. How we can connect with those people
Sure.
that came or whatever, but we don't have to keep doing this again and again and again. And I think that's somewhere where we get tripped up a lot as a church.
Oh, right. Like we just have memories of. It's always interesting when I've gone to a new church. I'll always ask, what do you love about this church? And nothing wrong with this, but generally the answers are, here's something we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Remember the one time where we did this and it was awesome, and oh yeah, we should have that again. And it's like, or you do something brand new,
Right.
and the thing about brand new things are sometimes they fail. Sometimes they just don't work, and new church starts, a lot of times they just they don't work out. because they're complicated. They're hard. You have to kind of guess at it, and you do the best you can. But what is the thing that's going to reach people in this place? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Right? For an analogy, went fishing at the pond at my parents' place. A buddy of mine came, brought his like he had just bought like this beautiful new fishing rod that I'm sure cost more than my car, and had the perfect bait and all of these things, and he caught nothing. Nothing. There's fish in that pond. Amelia had her Barbie fishing pole, put a little chunk of a worm she found on it, and caught like 8 fish. It's like you don't always know what's going to work.
Right.
You have to just kind of try things sometimes.
And what I like is the conference there. Look at, for a long time it was church launches and that
Yeah.
sort of that revitalization as well. I mean,
Yeah.
people hear that we start talking like this, and immediately people go to, oh, are they going to get rid of the choir? Are they going to that?
No.
Relax.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not either or. It's both.
Right.
And I think there's room for both, and I'm glad there's some attention to both now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to pay attention to that and to building these new things and doing these new things, because the reality is there's just people out there that are hurting, and as much as we love our church, they'll probably never set foot in our church for one reason or another, and there are people that need the gospel, and so it's our job, like Paul said, to the Jews I was like a Jew, to the Greeks I was like a Greek. I'll do what I've got to do to help people come to know Jesus. And so kind of going back to something I was talking about earlier, a part of what excites me that we're continuing to have these conversations and talk about these things is that right now it does feel like everything in the world is on pause, and everything in the world is very protect what we have, let's not lose what we have, and I feel like there's very little go out and do something new right now, just because it's even harder right now to go out and do something new. But I think coming out of this, there's going to be even more of a need for people to find connection and to find this thing that has just been missing now for many reasons in their lives. And so we'll be hopefully very poised to be able to fill that void and fill that need in people's lives. So I guess a part of my encouragement to people right now is I get it. I get that things in your life, things in my life are difficult right now, and it's very easy to just be focused on I'm sad and I miss people and I miss, going out to restaurants, and although you can start doing some of this stuff again, yay. We need to get some live music back in the restaurants, though.
For sure.
Yeah, we do. But I want to encourage us to still see people that are beyond, just our core little circle. I think we're still called, even in the midst of a pandemic, to witness to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth.
2 things I appreciate about you. One is your positive outlook. I mean, since we've been together, I've been through some tough stuff, and you're always the guy who puts in that little joke that I'm like, you jerk. I want to cry, but I'm laughing right now. And so I appreciate you being and I do appreciate you the way that you always look outside the box. Like being at a New Year's Eve party and finding our future worship director,
Right?
and your heart goes out to people beyond self, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I've always felt like there's. I can't do the dichotomy thing. The black, it's black or it's white. It's like, but what if it's green? Like, not even just it's gray, but what if it's green? What if it's and try to ask these different kind of questions. I think that that's something that we miss in in our society in general is, like I think of the pandemic thing, and I feel like it's gotten politicized. Everybody's on one side or the other. If you do this, it's because you're a fascist. If you do this, it's because you're reckless, and all these other things. Like, there's got to be another way.
Yeah.
And Jesus, I feel like, always looked for the other way. Should we pay taxes to Caesar or not? Yeah, give to Caesar what Caesar's, give to God what's God's, and finding this whole other way of talking about things. So thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, but boy, you messed that up, because that was your opportunity to lavish me with compliments. But no, moment's gone.
Well, listen, I do that off camera.
That's
and tell you about how, I think I told you look good today.
Oh, yeah,
You're a
yeah.
good looking guy. We didn't even talk about your mustache.
Sweet
No, we
mustache,
have not talked about my mustache.
We haven't talked about mustaches or chickens today.
Every
I'm
time
totally off my game.
Every time I describe, because we do have some cool guests coming up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Craig Kupferberg. He was twice the principal at Findlay High School. A coolest principal ever. I mean, used to dress up like Santa Claus, and he'd pass out candy to the kids and have a fireplace on his iPad, walk around. But he grew up Jewish, and he's going to talk about his conversion moment.
Wow, that's cool.
And one of the potential guys that we have, I shouldn't say too much in case he doesn't come on, but we have some good guests coming on. But it's funny that every time I try and describe what's going on here,
Yeah.
I always tell them, well, you're just going to have to tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll ask you a few questions, but it's mostly nonsense.
It's mostly nonsense, but every now and then we say something incredibly profound, and I am eternally grateful that it's captured in perpetuity on the internet, because nothing on the internet ever goes away.
Nope, and it's all true.
And so one of the things about this that gets my adrenaline going is there's an even chance that I'm going to say something profound that gets captured in perpetuity, or I'm going to say something horrific that will get me fired and be out there forever.
Yeah.
So
Either way, I'm here to clip it out into a 60-minute clip and put it on the internet.
Thank you. We're so glad that you are here,
Woo-hoo!
James. So, but yeah, it is. It's hard to describe because we don't really know what we're doing. We're just talking.
Yeah.
Because we miss you guys, and hopefully we'll be able to be together soon. We're going to be meeting this coming week to talk about what it will look like to reopen. Again, we're shooting for the first week of June. That's not in stone yet, but hopeful if we can come up with a plan. And it seems like the situation's good for it. We'll go at it and try to meet then, but. We will also still offer live streaming. We haven't figured that out, how to do that from the church yet.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We always just tell James, man, we trust you. You got this. You can figure it out.
And poor James is like right up to the wire.
It's
trying
not
to
smart.
figure it out.
I keep telling you, it's not a smart idea.
Oh man. So, well, I think that's a good place to land the plane.
It is.
We'll land the plane. So glad you guys were with us today. Thanks for sticking around. And again, join us 10:30 on Sunday morning. We'll be right here on this couch for continuing our series on Romans. I'm actually super excited. I already have my sermon mostly done, and I'm super excited about it. Which probably means I'll wake up like on Saturday night in the middle of the night and God will be like, no, here's a different thing for you to talk about.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yes, I hate
happened
it.
to me.
I'm like, God, thank you for
Keeping me up
inspiring
till
me with
2 in the
this. Hey,
morning.
maybe do it on a Monday
Yeah.
at 2 in the afternoon next time. But
Even
whatever.
without that, Dave, you want to just see if you can guess some of his points from his next sermon? And
Yeah, since you ruined the last one, you jerk.
Well,
I'll give you a hint. It's in Romans.
yes, the Roman road to salvation.
That's right, and we're walking down it. So hopefully you'll join us 10:30. There should be a Spark Online coming from Corinne today, so check out that on the YouTube. It's youtube.com/St. Mark's Findlay. And yeah, glad you were here with us today, and we hope to see you soon. Take care.
Take care.
goodbye, everybody. Do 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 do.